Hey, it's 7:21 p.m. It is still Friday, February 23rd. I decided to come back here and make another video. I'm kind of calmed down right now. I'm not really thinking about all the other stuff I talked about in the other video. But of course, somehow, certain things are interconnected beyond my control. I was thinking about how much I liked Fridays when I was a little kid. Every Friday, my parents would like let us choose where we wanted to eat, what kind of food we wanted. And then, I remember my favorite fast food place when I was a kid. I used to like A&W a lot. I used to like their French fries and stuff. And so, like, my dad would come home and bring the A&W. I remember when we would get to choose, and they would agree we're going to go ahead and get whatever I wanted. It was always, the groans and the rolling of the eyes, and it's like I guess I should have kind of clued in back then that my family fucking hated me. But anyway, Fridays can be fun though. They can be if you plan them out wisely. I know some people get home late on Fridays and it's like they're really tired. They don't feel like making any food or anything. Sometimes if you have teenage kids, they're interested in cooking and they might want to take that over for a little bit. Whatever, just manage it so that you don't have to be so overworked and like drained all the time. That's the whole goal, I think, is to try not to overexert yourself in a world that kind of runs you ragged anyway. You know what I mean? Try to find solutions to those problems. Try to nip it in the bud, so that you can enjoy your weekend. I try to clean up after myself. Like right now, I know I have dishes to do. My son hasn't eaten yet. And as soon as he's finished eating, I'm going to go downstairs and do the dishes. But, I try to clean up after myself. That way I don't have a mess to deal with afterwards. I try to, you know, arrange things to where I can avoid as much burdens as I possibly can. I try to anyway. And no one likes doing the dishes, right? And no one does. It's funny though. I do like those cute little sponges last fall. I try to make things as entertaining as I possibly can, even washing the dishes. I was at the dollar store and they had these cute sponges. They were shaped like autumn leaves, right? And I thought, oh, how cute. That'll be at least something cute to look at while I have to do such a tedious chore. But anyway, so I was just kind of thinking about, yeah, I was kind of thinking about this issue a little bit about the experiment. Um, I think what bothers me is, of course, the fake family thing. Not just the fake adoptive family, but the whole issue of putting like my blood relations against me and stuff like that. To me, it's just like, oh my God, how utterly barbaric can you be? And then, I think about how a lot of people, they don't really think. They don't think, they just do. You know what I mean? And this is one of the biggest issues I think it's important for people who are in charge of people, like in people in leadership positions. They need to understand how impressionable people are and be careful about their actions out in the public, whatever it is that they do, because it's important that they always set a good example. You know what I mean? I am not a leader. I know that um, an official leader. I do know that after I left the farmer's place, I had people coming up to me asking me, was I a leader? I think it's because I was trying to explain, hey, just because I have different hair doesn't mean that I should be discriminated against work. The reason why they were making it a big issue and acting as if I was, going against the system is because they didn't understand that they were going against the system. The system does protect me. But I think it's the fact that, I think I handled everything well. You know what I mean? I think what got out of hand is obviously it was wrong to happen in the first place over the farmer's place, and it should have stopped at the farmer's place, especially since I was cooperative. I was being very cooperative, just wanting to get back to work and mind my own business. One thing I was talking about earlier about people who are in the trafficking program, you'll notice, this is going to wake you up. Okay, start thinking back. You'll start remembering, maybe you had an issue that somebody was trying to like bring up with you in one of your last jobs, and then all of a sudden somebody's bringing up the exact same issue, little petty fighting stuff, you know what I mean, in the next job. So you start realizing, wait a second, this is a pattern. This is like this is the same group of people that I'm being associated with, and it is very traumatizing. I remember when I was over at this, I think it was a gravel place. I forgot the name of it, really, because I only stayed there for like 6 months, and apparently they thought that I was making too much money, so then they, of course, laid me off. And it was my mother-in-law at the time who ended my job, which I thought was kind of fucked up. Here in the United States, just let you know, pyramid people, here in the United States, that's just illegal. Okay, family members should not have any sort of jurisdiction over anybody's employment, but that's what ended up happening. So, I think about, the employment laws and how they're there to protect us, but so very few people are aware of these laws, and they should be. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're a person who works in human resources, or you're a business owner and you're thinking about, how to set a good positive tone, then also working within those guidelines because they are important. I'm a good example of why, people really should take these sort of guidelines seriously. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to be in a human trafficking program. It is the most terrifying thing I've ever had to experience. There was a girl, I don't know her name. I wish I would have made an effort to remember, but this was back in, I don't know, maybe 2017. I was looking up information on human trafficking and phone numbers and contact information, and I stumbled upon this girl's video who was also a victim of human trafficking, and she was talking about it, how terrifying it is, how terrorizing it is, how she just literally lost her mind dealing with this issue. And it's scary because you know that your life is basically over once they get involved in it, because what it does is it wipes you out emotionally. It wipes you out all of your relationships. Like, obviously I had a fake family that basically deserted me, and then I also experienced abuse by my so-called blood relations, right? So it's never good when people are in trafficking situations, and it does leave you financially destitute many times. Um, it will put you in situations where the fact that somebody could actually have control over another human being in any aspect of their life, but especially when it comes to your job. So you might even have old friends that you might have went to school with who have an issue with you, and they end up arranging your job secretly, and they're enacting their bullshit and their frustrations out on you through your employment. That's what it basically is. And if you know that that person you never got along, how do you feel about being basically their slave? I'm sure that doesn't make you very happy. I'm sure it doesn't. Yeah, so this is why I'm talking about human trafficking. How devastating it is. And like I said, in one of my other videos, I know that people generally conjure up the image in human trafficking. They think of somebody being carted in the back of a truck. Yeah, that does happen, but there's different forms of human trafficking. And human trafficking is basically somebody who is directing your every step, your ability. They can control where you live. They can control your employment. They can control your marriage. They can either guide you into marrying somebody that's not for you, and dare try to leave once they arrange this. And then they could also, if you're in a happy marriage or whatever, they could end up destroying that. That's the sort of shit that goes on in human trafficking. So it's a very serious issue, and it needs to be looked at. It is not something funny. It is not a joke. You know what I mean? And what bothers me is that you had some of these organizations. Like, I had a church one time. I applied for a job, I think it was an accounting job, of course, and it was for, I don't know, I don't remember their religious organization, but it's like, that's why when people tell me that they go to church and all this other stuff, it doesn't mean anything to me, because to me, I've seen too many people act the opposite of what Jesus is supposed to be like. Like, I don't think in back in Jesus' time, if he met somebody like me, if he wanted me to follow him, he would walk up to me and tell me why he wanted me to follow him. And that's either him, it's either between him and me or whatever, but it's not something that I'm ever going to be. He didn't pressure people. Okay, it's the sort of, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with that. And then I had people, this one lady was telling me, I went to a job interview, and you should never have anybody talk about religion when you are going into a job interview, because right then and there, they're basically saying you either see things my way or you can't have a job. That's illegal. Okay, that's illegal. But she was basically telling me that she was in the Word. And I'm like, I don't really give a shit. I'm here for a fucking job. You know what I mean? It's no disrespect or anything like that. And I don't think it was any disrespect when I made my first YouTube channel on the occult. You know, I think the thing is, when you're dealing with narcissistic people, they think that your personal choices is an offense to them. It's personal. I had no idea that I was number one Prince Alamehu. I had no idea that, that a religious war was basically launched against me. And that's basically what the excuse was, but I do believe it was racial, but it was a religious, they used religion as an excuse. And I, like I said, the issues that me and my sister Tanya had, those little conversations, maybe she would invite me to her church or something, and I wasn't going or whatever. I didn't think it was something that would escalate, or she was like holding it against me or held that much of a grudge over me, it was perfectly understandable. I had went to one of her church meetings before. Like I said, it was a little bit too love bomby. I was not comfortable with people like singing in my face and like being overly nice. I'm not comfortable with that because people who've dealt with abuse, especially things like it's this kind of heavy targeting, okay, from important people. One of the tactics that they use is love bombing, okay, and it's very, you start recognizing the signs. Like I didn't know exactly that I was like the Prince Alamehu or why they were following or anything like that. But I had obviously understood that there was a pattern about people being really nice to me and then flipping it around like within a day or so. So I never felt comfortable with that. Also, I didn't like people just making up rules on the fly every time, like for example, when they were bullying my sister about the tank top. It's like, well, you know what? Where is this coming from? You know what I mean? You don't make up rules just because you're jealous and then try to make it a religious cause out of it. Regardless, you know what I mean? Like, whether, um, which I never did. I never went up against the Christian church. I never said that people should not be Christian. I never spoke against or out loud or protested. I never did anything relating to that. I just chose that, I always gravitated towards my interests and it was nothing personal. But I did know that when it came to you know, me being targeted over the religious thing, it's like I felt as though what happened was like all one sided. It was all one sided. Like I cannot take any responsibility for it, and I can't say this enough because I feel every day I wake up with this feeling of being angry. Every day I wake up with this disgust of the people who got involved in it, the masterminds behind it. I get sick and tired of weak people. Like weak people, what I mean by that is I'm looking at people like my ex sister Tanya. Okay, Tanya, she was a fucking fool, and I'll tell you why. Because she never looked at this issue deeper. She basically helped a Nazi plan. She helped it along. A black woman, so stupid, so blind, was sitting here participating and helping somebody that was actually against her in the first place. And then we have this whole experiment where, this is supposed to be about a competition against my my twin, right? So my twin, she's more than happy to sit here and try to fuck up my shit. Not to get to know me as a person, not to have a relationship that's based on our common shared bloodline. No, she wanted to one up me. She wanted to snuff me out. She wanted to show herself off. You know what I mean? So when I think about these people and how sick this program is and how disgusting it is and how people with their blind faith, people with their what do you call it, their need to have approval, what they're willing to do, even go so far to assist in a Nazi plan. You know what I mean? Just so they can look like they're somebody special. See, it's this sort of shit that I don't want to be like. I look at humanity, and I've been doing this for quite a long time. I look at shit that I find absolutely what I call icky. And I don't like things that are icky. Like, that's one of the reasons why, like, I've talked about being asexual before. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that everyone I've ever known has been icky. They've either been a fake friend or a perp of some sort. So, I don't, why am I going to want somebody touching me? It makes total sense because to me they're garbage. I don't want garbage touching me. It only makes sense, right? You know what I mean? And that's all I've ever known. I've only known garbage. I've only known mind controlled slaves. I've only known people um, who can't think for themselves. I've only known people who were, like I said, perps. People who were love bombing you one day, and the next thing you know, they're fucking freaking out and acting all weird. And the funny thing is, all this time, I was the only one with my head on my shoulders. They had it completely backwards. Isn't it funny how things turn out? Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap up this video. I did want to say that really quick. Like I said, what I want to do is I just want to move on with my life. That's what I want to do because I don't want to make these stories anymore. I was thinking about how I want to share the beauty of a cup of dandelion tea and what it can do for you and all the beauty of water and how healing it is. I want to talk about that sort of stuff, really, I do. But it's just like, I need to see that. I need to see signs of me moving on. And that's one of the reasons why I've been very direct about and being very insistent because, I should never have to sit here and worry about one damn thing for the rest of my life. That's the truth. I shouldn't have to worry about one goddamn thing. I should have made enough money from suing the farmer. But then those, what do you call it, those little slights, those little workplace injustices continue to happen and it spilled out into the community, which was even worse. Okay? And then, I kept trying to explain it. And this is one of the reasons why I feel fearful about these people because it should have, the third video that I made on this channel should have stopped everything right where it began. It should have just like stopped, went to a screeching halt. It should have been enough. Okay, here we are 8 years later and I'm making this video. I don't ever anyone ever telling me that I'm being unreasonable. I don't want anybody ever telling me, well, you're saying too much. You know what? I have every right to say whatever I need to say. I should have, I have every right to. And I was thinking, about something today as I was coming home. We hear about these stories about and no, I'm not saying it's right. I am not saying it's right. But we hear about these stories about, people who end up killing their families. Okay, like there was this one guy I remember hearing about how he ended up killing his family and then he ended up killing himself and everything like that. How do you know? Does anybody ever look into why he did that? And a lot of times he may have felt like he was trapped. He could have been one of those people who was in a targeting situation and did everything he could to try to fix things with his family, try to get a better job, try to level up, try to, improve his situation, all right? But he's always dealing with this bullshit over and over again. And he's got this family that's relying on him, and it just fucking becomes too much. And you know what? This world is pretty goddamn bleak. So he decides to exile his family. And I am not saying that that's what he should do. I'm just saying is there's a lot of things that go on, behind the scenes when it comes to the employment sector that really needs to be looked at. You know what I mean? Why are people feeling trapped? Why are people having, jurisdiction over other people's finances? Why is it that people are just accepting this as normal? It is not normal. It is a violation against the law. It is a federal crime. Human trafficking is a serious problem in the United States. Not just the United States, because I've heard about it happening over in the UK too, with a lot of what do you call it? Like Islamic type families where the girl maybe want to get out of the relationship or whatever, and her family has this whole thing about staying in the marriage and she can't leave. Can't leave. You know what I mean? There are laws about this sort of stuff, and it's like people need to start paying attention to this. It's life endangerment, and it is not funny. It is not funny. I know sometimes people might think, oh, like they might know of a guy who's targeting a girl, kind of stalking her, and he's a he's liked her for a very long time. But like I said, she probably wouldn't like him anyway. But everybody else is like really thinking that this is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. They're all excited about, this whole love affair that could possibly happen. But you don't know what she's going on in her head. She may not even be interested in that dude. You know what I mean? And this might go on for like months. It could go on for years. And guess what? You just wasted time out of that person's life beyond her control for your entertainment. Human trafficking needs to fucking stop. It needs to fucking stop. And for several reasons. Not just the fact that, people have jurisdiction over your shit when they really shouldn't, but it's also the fact that, it's the destruction that it causes. It's the lack of stability. Here I am, 53 years old. Basically telling people, could you please stop messing with my shit so I can make a living? Please stop trying to direct me into certain situations that, could end up wasting my time or hurting me. You know what I mean? Why? Why? I mean, I am not, of course, I have every reason to feel this way. And then, also the fact that, these very people who do this sort of stuff, they sit there and they always try to, this is why I will never want to hear their fucking apology or take them seriously because, like I said, they should have cleaned up my YouTube numbers a long time ago. Did they know? When I judge people, I judge them fairly and I judge them like, justly. So when I say I'm not gung ho about certain people, I pretty much have a good reason to be that way. I'm not somebody who's willy nilly. I don't sit here and like, hate somebody because they bumped my car. You know what I mean? That could happen to anybody. Somebody accidentally stepped on my foot. I get it. That happens. You know what I mean? But somebody literally just tries to take a shit on my fucking family line. Somebody fucking, thinks it's funny to sit here and like play with my life and then have my own blood relations sit here and basically try to put me in a targeting program that's going to fucking try to kill me. No, I don't think it's funny at all. You know what I mean? I say that when I say hate, if I feel hatred towards that person, then I think it's righteous and I think it's just. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? I understand when I say love your enemy, it's forgiving those little small transgressions that could happen. Like, hey, they hit your car. They didn't mean it. That could happen to anybody. But when somebody consistently, deliberately, for over 8 years, constantly fucks your shit up, what are you supposed to think? You're a fool if you think forgiving somebody at that point is what do you call it? A noble thing to do. It's a foolish thing to do. If you have the ability, and hopefully you can, get the fuck away from those sort of people. It's abuse. You know what I mean? Recognize abuse, and don't put up and tolerate it. That's all I can say. But anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, and I know it's getting closer to spring, which is nice. You know what I mean? I can already see like some of the trees already turning. It's really exciting during this time of year. I do prefer fall, but there is a certain beauty about spring, and I could feel it. Like a few days ago, I could feel that shift coming through, and I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, but I will be back in another video sometime, maybe this weekend. I hope you guys all have a wonderful, peaceful Friday night. Take care. Bye bye.